You've been told you just need to communicate better. Ask for what you need. Be vulnerable. And so you do. You ask, they answer, they tell you everything is fine, they love you, they're not going anywhere. And for about 11 minutes, you believe them. Then it starts again. The doubt doesn't care that they just said the right things. It doesn't care that the conversation was good, that they meant every word. Something in you resets almost immediately, and you're back to needing it again. You think this means you're broken or too needy, or that you just haven't found the right person yet. You're wrong about all three. The problem isn't your relationship. The problem is that you're using an external input to regulate an internal system, and that system was never designed to be regulated from the outside. John Bowlby, the British psychiatrist who developed attachment theory in the 1960s, described the attachment system as a biological mechanism, not a personality trait, but a survival circuit that evolved to monitor proximity to a caregiver and generate distress when that proximity felt threatened. Mary Ainsworth's Strange Situations studies at Johns Hopkins showed that this system develops its operating patterns in the first years of life, before language, before logic, before you had any way to consciously shape it. Your attachment system has been running on a particular set of rules since before you were old enough to understand rules existed. And those rules were written by experience, not by choice. Ainsworth identified anxious attachment as a pattern that develops when early caregiving was inconsistent. Not necessarily harmful, just unpredictable. Sometimes warm, sometimes distant. The child's nervous system learns to stay on high alert. That connection must be constantly monitored because it can disappear without warning. It learns to keep scanning, keep checking, keep seeking confirmation that the caregiver is still there. That was an intelligent adaptation. Given the environment, it was the right response. You are no longer in that environment. The adaptation is still running. Here is what actually happens when you ask for reassurance. Your partner says something loving. That information reaches the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for threat detection. The amygdala is fast, automatic, and not particularly interested in what your partner just said. It calculates safety based on pattern history, on the accumulated record of every time connection was uncertain, every time warmth was followed by withdrawal. Researchers studying emotion regulation have described reassurance as a temporary dampening of the stress response rather than a resolution of it. The signal quiets, but the system that generated the signal is still active. It hasn't changed. It's simply been interrupted. This is why 11 minutes feels like the outer limit. The reassurance didn't fix the calibration, it just pressed pause. Think of a fire alarm that triggers whenever the humidity drops below a certain level. You silence the alarm. The alarm stops, but the humidity hasn't changed, and 20 minutes later, it triggers again. You could silence it 1,000 times and spend your entire life managing the alarm rather than understanding why it keeps going off. Your nervous system is the alarm. Your partner's reassurance is the silence button. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people with anxious attachment show elevated cortisol responses to perceived social threat. Even when the threat is ambiguous or hypothetical, their stress systems activate before the problem is confirmed. You are not responding to what happened. You are responding to what could happen, filtered through everything that has happened before. When you ask, "Are we okay?" you already know the answer. What you're actually asking for is for your nervous system to stop producing the signal it's currently producing. The words are almost irrelevant. What matters is that the alarm quiets. This is the loop. Anxiety activates, you seek reassurance. The system calms temporarily, then reactivates. Each cycle reinforces the belief that external reassurance controls your internal state. And each time that belief is reinforced, your nervous system becomes slightly less capable of regulating without it. Helen Fisher's neuroimaging research at Rutgers found that the neural circuitry involved in anxious attachment overlaps significantly with the brain regions activated during craving and withdrawal. The system doesn't just want reassurance, it is conditioned to need it. The pattern doesn't stay contained to one relationship. It bleeds into how you interpret silence, how you read a two-word reply, how you rehearse conversations preparing for rejection that hasn't occurred. And sometimes it creates the very distance you're afraid of, because constant monitoring, constant need for confirmation, is exhausting. The person pulls back slightly, your system reads it as confirmation of everything it feared, and the loop tightens. Bowlby's later work distinguished between the attachment behavioral system, which activates in response to threat, and felt security, which is not the absence of threat, but a deep, internalized belief that your needs can be met. That closeness isn't inherently dangerous. Felt security doesn't come from reassurance. It comes from accumulating evidence in the body over time that the old patterns no longer apply. Reassurance bypasses that process entirely. It tells your nervous system the alarm can be silenced, but not that the alarm is miscalibrated. Every successful reassurance-seeking interaction delays the update your attachment system actually needs. The pattern continues not despite the reassurance working, but because of it. The reason it keeps repeating across relationships is that the system writing the rules was never touched. The words reached you. They didn't reach the part of you still running the original calibration. The part that learned long before you had words for it. That presence is temporary. That warmth runs out, and that the only way to stay close is to never stop checking. That part is still doing its job. It was built to. The question is whether the job still needs to be done.